Good morning. I am really happy to see that we've got almost a full house. Out of the 1,500 employees that we have within the division, we probably have about a third or more of them here this morning. So I want to congratulate all of you for getting up early and making your way up to iHouse. I wanted to set the tone for this morning by showing this video, We Are Student Affairs, because it's a good reminder of all the things that we do to serve our students on this campus. Our vision, the division is actually about, as I said, 1,500 people strong, and we touch students' lives each and every day, as well as one another. And it's that kind of energy, that kind of excitement, that kind of caring that actually has made me want to get up and come to work every day for what will be on Saturday, 32 years on the Berkeley campus. I know some of you are not even that old, so don't even try to do the math. I started here when I was 15. The state of the division is important to me for two major reasons. The first is that it allows us an opportunity to learn about all the important work that we do across the campus at a macro level. And that it also allows us to pause and look out on the horizon about what our future might hold for us. And second, coming together reminds us of all the things that we do as individual staff members to enhance the student experience on this campus. And our power comes from being a community of educators, practitioners, service providers, etc. Later on this morning in the program, Chancellor Dirks will be with us. He's heard about us and he's witnessed firsthand the great work that you all do. And I know it's important for him to meet you in person. Recently, I've started to articulate more clearly what it means to be a part of the Student Affairs Division that brings every program, service integration, interaction, and relationship with our students to light. We are in the business of creating access, providing great service, and designing opportunities for engagement. But at our heart, we are a division of care. We create a culture of care or a culture of caring that supports and challenges the students so that they can explore and accomplish more. If we remember nothing else about what we've said today about our jobs, remember this. Our role is that to be the people who care, who really care about our students and our fellow staff members. Keep this in mind as we spend our time together today and this academic year. Now I want to turn the mic over to Chief of Staff Felicia Lee for the next part of our program. Thank you again for being here this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Awesome. Okay, so as Harry mentioned, we lead pretty busy lives. And before we know it, in a blink of an eye, we're starting another academic year. And so we don't get a lot of opportunities to really sort of pause and to reflect and really, like he said, look out on the horizon to kind of just see the forest through the trees, so to speak, and to fully understand how our division is connected to the campus as a whole, and to hear from our university leadership about what's going on in their worlds and how that impacts what we do in ours and vice versa. Our guests today are leaders tasked to provide vision for the areas across the campus that works very closely with our division on a daily basis. So this morning, we're going to spend a little time hearing from some of our critical campus partners, and I'm going to introduce each of our panelists and invite them to the stage, so please hold your applause and cheering until the end. First, let me welcome to the stage Larry Conrad, our new Chief Technology Officer. That's Larry and his son, Alec. Larry started his new post this past February and moved to the Bay Area from UNC Chapel Hill, where he oversaw a similar portfolio. He has over 40 years of experience in the field of information technology and has a diverse background in both university and corporate settings with extensive experience in research, instructional, and enterprise computing, as well as telecommunications. At Berkeley, Larry oversees the IST division, setting IT direction and coordinating infrastructure and service delivery across the university. He's responsible for the IST units, which support enterprise applications, enterprise data, research support, teaching and learning, user support, infrastructure, communications, and information security. There's a whole bunch more, but I didn't understand any of that, so I just cut it at this point.
Neither do I.
So next, I would like to invite Kathy Koshland, Vice Provost of Teaching, Learning, Academic Planning, and Facilities to the stage. That's Kathy in Tahoe being her typical athletic self. Apparently when she's not running around campus in the hills of South Bay, she's hiking up mountains and whatnot. Kathy is also the Wood Calvert Professor in Engineering and a Professor of Environmental Health Sciences in the School of Public Health, as well as the Energy and Resources Group. Kathy has responsibility for major operating units, including University Extension, Summer Sessions, Study Abroad, the Student Learning Center, the Athletic Study Center, the Center for Teaching and Learning, and Educational Technology Services. Her office has responsibility for several strategic academic initiatives, as well as providing support to faculty development in teaching and learning. And I have a wager that within the next 5 years, she will have another title added to her moniker. So next, John Wilton. Please come on up. He is the Vice Chancellor for Administration and Finance. John began his post on February 1, 2011, and before coming to Cal, John was the Managing Director and the Director of International Research for a global multi-strategy US-based investment firm. And prior to that, he worked for the World Bank for 24 years in some critical leadership positions. John's responsible for managing the university's annual operating budget of more than $1.8 billion, the continuing design and implementation of OE, the stabilization of the campus budget, and the establishment of a sustainable financial model for our future. In addition, he oversees campus operations that include financial and human resources, auxiliary and business services, information technology, athletics, and environment, health, and public safety. Last but not least, I will reintroduce our infamous Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, who's doing the Student Affairs Royal Wave, Harry LeGrand, who really doesn't actually need any further introduction, other than the fact that for the past 32 years that he's been at Berkeley, he still comes to work each and every day with a smile on his face, and depending on the year, with a little more gray hair and looking a little less like Lionel Richie up in that photo. Yes, that is Harry LeGrand. And he can thank Ken Montgomery for that lovely photo archive. So let us now give our panelists a rousing round of applause and welcome. So I'm going to ask the panelists a series of questions. Some of them have actually been submitted by some of you through our online survey and request. But it's actually, I think, our hope, and my hope certainly, that the panel will feel free to discuss amongst yourselves and have this be a little more of an intimate conversation with 400 strangers looking at you. So don't feel intimidated by that. But really allow the conversation and discussion to be as organic as needed. But let me begin by asking each of our panelists to share their thoughts on this first question. Our new Chancellor, Nicholas Dirks, has said publicly that he wants to focus his attention on the quote-unquote undergraduate education. How do you see your role in supporting his vision around this platform?
I guess I'll start, since a lot of this falls in my portfolio. I think we are in an unbelievably sweet spot for our Chancellor. There has been an enormous amount of work really over the last 5 years building up to a point where I think we are in a position to support our undergraduates in a way that we never have been before. That effort has been a collaborative one with Harry, with Larry now and his predecessor before him, with many folks in my team and all of the academic units, particularly the undergraduate deans and the deans of undergraduate colleges, to work together to lay out a set of initiatives and also an enthusiasm for them among faculty and among staff that I've been on the campus 30 years, and I have never seen us be in a position such as the one we're in today, and I'm very excited, and I think Nick will have an incredible opportunity to move forward on this.
I think what I would just add to what Kathy has said is that one of the things that or I think Robin Thicke has sung out blurred lines, and I won't do the Miley Cyrus dance, I promise.
Well, thank you.
I didn't see it, but I did hear about it, as did the whole rest of the world. I mean, you would thought that was something with global warming. But I think what we've been trying to do for the first time, students don't look at us in these boxes that we have on an organizational chart. They come here to the University of California and expecting a great undergraduate experience or even a graduate student experience. And so I think what the four of us have really been engaged in over the course of the last few years is to continue to keep those lines blurred and not get so much stuck in our silos and territoriality, because the students don't benefit from that. And what we really are trying to do is break down those barriers. And I think the hardest part for us as leaders is transmitting and translating that to the people that work for us. Because whether you want to believe it or not, the lower you get, the more siloed you can become, because you're really used about controlling and finishing what's on your desk that particular day. And so I think we're really striving to kind of get decisions made at the lowest possible level that don't get escalated up, but that we also have good data in order to make those decisions. And I think from what I've been reading from the surveys that we did within Student Affairs, from both students and our staff, technology is going to play a huge role in that.
Well, and that's a good segue to me, I guess. A lot of what we generally do is sort of under the covers, not necessarily highly visible, but I think there's a set of things that we're working on right now that we're really excited about, and I think students are going to be excited about that too. One, of course, is the piloting that the ETS organization is rolling out for the Cal Central, which I've heard some of the history. It's been long anticipated and awaited. So people, I think students are going to respond very well to that. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to see any of it, but it's an impressive piece of work. We've also approved this thing that I guess is lovingly being called the Consolidated Student Financial View. But still trying to get at how do you provide a cogent, understandable, accurate, what a concept, view to the students of their financial picture, whether it be financial aid or what bills they've owed or paid or whatever. So I think that's, as I understand the history, there's been a lot of interest expressed on that over the years. So that's going to be an exciting opportunity for them. And of course, we're going to replace our basic set of student systems. Not absolutely everything, but certainly the underlying infrastructure in our student system replacement project that many of you have heard something about, I hope, and are actively involved in. And that I think will be well received too. It's going to take a long time to get there. It's not something we're going to have tomorrow afternoon. But our window is about 3 years from now. We expect to have that rolled out and completed, and that should really transform the student experience with at least the fundamental basic enterprise systems here.
Yeah, I guess I'd add that from my remit, we have lots of parts of it that touch the undergraduates. From health services to rec sports, the police, space and capital planning, increasingly facilities. So there's a number of areas that directly impacts students and undergrads, and we're looking at each one of those. Of course, the big puzzle is, as Kathy said, there's tons of initiatives on campus, and the question is, how do you pay for them all?
He always brings up money.
It's his problem.
And unfortunately, it's in my job description to make everything add. So, we have to make some resource allocation decisions. So if we are going to emphasize undergraduates, we have to make some choices elsewhere. And it does roll into the whole operational excellence effort. Operational excellence isn't done for the fun of it. It's done because it makes the admin and operations part of the campus more efficient, which frees up resources to support research and teaching. And that's the ultimate goal, is to provide as many resources to the front line of what the university does. Of course, you're walking a tightrope, as Larry said. If your systems and your backline are not working, then the student experience is going to be very bad. If they don't know what their bills are and they can't get paid, that's equally damaging. So we have to do both at the same time. And I think the other point I'd underscore is the one Harry made, is you can't do that unless you do it in a cooperative way. every project that we do involves everyone on this stage plus other people who are not here. And so we have to be cooperative and work across groups. And I'm really impressed by the work that's going on in student affairs, of being open to working with others outside. I think that's crucial going forward.
So let me just add on to the conversation, since you were talking about being the quote-unquote de facto money man. So, obviously the campus has been having lots of conversations about how do we become resourceful. And I think that one of the things that you have said very publicly is about how do we also create this sort of quote-unquote fifth line of revenue, or how do we continue to generate more revenue? So a question that some of our staff members had related to that was that if one of the campus priorities is to generate external revenue, that current attempts to create new initiatives have often been challenging due to existing campus policies regarding sponsorships and business development with the private sector. Is the campus doing anything to promote external revenue production in a way that would facilitate an ease and a seamlessness so that we can meet the financial call that the campus is giving to us?
It's a great question. I think, how did we get here? One is operational excellence as it was set up, focused entirely on the cost side, on generating efficiencies, which was the place to start, because there were areas of campus where you could make really quantum changes to save resources to direct towards teaching and research. The clearest one was procurement. We're now saving tens of millions of dollars on procurement. That's just buying stuff more efficiently. And we've merged our procurement unit with UCSF, so we have fewer staff doing a better job buying stuff cheaper. And all of that savings goes directly to the front line. So, but it was a narrow concept in the sense of only looked at one side of the ledger, costs and not revenue. And I'm often say that $1 saved is the same as $1 of net revenue generated. You still have $1 to spend that you didn't have before. So we've put this new emphasis on revenue. And the OE office is in the process of transforming itself. So it's not only looking at efficiency projects, it's looking at revenue generating projects. And it'll become the hub on campus. So if you have a great idea for a RevGen project, you can go to Peggy in OE, and she will provide resources to analyze it, and if it turns out to be a great project, provide the capital to support it and everything else. So we're creating a campus hub for RevGen projects, and they can be from anywhere, from the academic, operations, admin side of it. So that's one thing. The question, though, says, look, we have great ideas, but we can't implement them. I mean, I think the thing there is that there are some things that we can't change, and not all the policies are generated on campus. I mean, there's certain policies related to alcohol. You can't change, if you think it'd be a terrific idea to serve, wine at this meeting, there's certain constraints on it. There's things about privacy that you can't ignore, and safety. So there are some policies that make sense. Some of them are defined, as state laws, and some of them are by UCOP, and some of them are at the policy. What I would say to people is there's a great principle from the business school, which is in the slogan, question the status quo. So I would urge you all to question the status quo. It's not to say break policy, it's simply to question, is the policy, can the policy be changed in order to facilitate what you want to achieve? And I think that's the way to approach it. Sometimes the answer will be no, you can't change the policy, we don't determine it, but many times it'll be yes, but you need to, I think, approach it in this cooperative manner and push back if there seems to be a policy that doesn't make sense.
I think, let me just add to that. There's a good example on the academic side of the house of a unit where students appeared to have a problem going abroad, and every time they made an attempt, they were told it was the dean's policy. When the dean was actually approached and asked if this was actually the case, the dean didn't even know such a policy existed. It actually was not a policy, and it was easy to change. Well, it was ancient on the books, and with basically a brief conversation that got changed, and the experience potential for all of those students was transformed within a matter of minutes. So one of the things that we have to remember is that many of our practices are interpreted as policy. And a practice may have made sense in a pen and paper world 30 or 50 or 80 or 100 years ago. And believe me, I think we've got some that are that old. That's the, question the policy if in this day and age it doesn't make sense, or if it doesn't align with an objective in the campus. And one of our campus objectives is giving our students opportunities to study abroad. And when you run into something that sounds like it's not working, questioning it can transform what's happening.
John, I was going to ask you maybe a follow-up question, because I think a lot of times folks, when they think about revenue generation, they're asking us, what makes sense? $10,000 savings, or 50, or 100,000, or $1 million? And I think to kind of help people get outside their own box about that, is there any? And I think somebody said you have to come up with 10,000 ideas to maybe get 50 that actually are workable. And so, is there such thing as a stupid idea in your idea?
No,
in your
I
mind?
don't think so. And I think what you should do is run it through, first of all, your local filter to see if you can do it within your remit. One of the things we're finding is that nearly every part of campus actually has more latitude and more resources than it thought it had. Most parts of campus had a view of their financial picture which was very partial. Once you look at all of the financial flows coming in and going out, actually most parts of campus have more resources at their disposal than they thought they had. So they can make investments at the local level up to a point. And I think what we're finding is that if we partner with units on campus, we can do a lot of RevGen projects. I mean, let me give you an idea of the range. So we're doing a project with the School of Environmental Design where they want to put a restaurant and a cafe in the ground floor. Initially, the idea was they'd come to us, they'd take a loan, they'd go to the facilities, we'd build it, and then they'd have a new area. Taking a completely different approach, bringing in a third party, they're going to help build out it, they're going to pay rent to the dean as opposed to the dean having a loan. The dean now has rent from the third party who's occupying the building, so that throws off a revenue stream. I don't know what it is, $100,000, $200,000 per year, but that's significant for the School of Environmental Design. And then there's a better service, we hope, and everyone benefits. The other end of the spectrum, Haas Business School has just set up a 501c3 for executive education, the Center for Executive Education. We helped facilitate, in that case, changing policies to make it a 501c3 and helping provide some of the initial thinking. That's a $40 million project. So, we're happy to do small ones and big ones and to be supportive of anything.
Thanks so much. I'm going to shift the tenor a little bit and move into more of a philosophical question. I think in the division, we're pretty clear about why we do the work that we do in terms of impacting the co-curricular, the out-of-classroom experience. And I think we also have clarity around why it's important that we have a premier academic experience. UC Berkeley, that's the brand, that's the culture, that's in our DNA. But we don't often hear, aside from Harry, actually, from our campus leaders, from your perspective, why you think a premier out-of-the-classroom experience is also important for our UC Berkeley students.
Well, I think it's a very timely question in the sense that one of the things that our students have is what we refer to as a residential college experience. They don't all live in our own residences, but they live in the city of Berkeley for the most part. They're here 24/7. Their life is not just about what they do in the classroom. It's about what they do walking to class. It's about what they do at 2 a.m. When most self-respecting people will be asleep and they're wide awake. This is a 24/7 environment for them. And how we blend that premier academic experience with a premier residential life experience, co-curricular experience, is really important. And I think when I say it's timely, one of the interesting questions for us to all be thinking about is what happens as we encounter and deal with the opportunities and challenges presented by the online presence, the ability to use technology, the fact that a student can watch a lecture in their res hall as well as actually walking across campus to class, that where are the barriers, where are the challenges, where are the things that we should be thinking about? How does that change how we might envision a residential life experience? Is the classic 4 years where we're going to be? Do we need to be thinking about different variations on this theme? Or do we have something that is really worth defending and creating a framework where our students can afford to spend the whole 4 years here? What does that look like? I think we're in a very interesting place in higher education in general as we look at that disruption that technology may be bringing, the values that we have, that we all share, and many of us experienced ourselves in our own undergraduate and graduate lives. So it's both an exciting time, it's a little unsettling to think about what this is. You get bombarded all the time by the news media, and I mean, I don't have a day that goes by right now where something about a MOOC or online or something is coming across my desk. And it's an interesting place to both not panic and embrace it in a sense of saying, okay, how do we leverage this? How do we make this work for our students, for our community? What does this mean in a context, as I said, of a residential institution and also a premier research institution? How do we make those two things work together? So I don't have answers. I've got lots and lots and lots of questions.
I might add, too, that I think Kathy, being on a board of a small liberal arts college, has a real affinity towards the undergraduate experience, and we talk about that quite a bit in the service delivery and I think in the orientation of what we try to approach. But I also think it's important to have a premier out of the classroom experience because our employers are saying they want that as well. Our students come out very academically prepared, but if they can't deal with people, they can't work with people, they can't work in teams, they can't problem solve in groups, they have conflicts, that does not serve them well in the world of work. And not all of our students want to go into the faculty. Some of them, I was actually meeting with Max G yesterday, the grad assembly president. He goes, a lot of grad students want to go to work. They don't want to go into the academy. And there's some tension about what that actually means for their experience here and how open they feel to share what their ambitions might be with some of their faculty supervisors. But I also think that a lot of times they use what I've noticed that companies are doing now are using extern and internships to drive the car, as I would call it. They have them come and work a summer and see if they can actually deal with those soft skills that they need them to have in the workplace. And we'll offer them a job many times at the end of that summer internship because they feel that they've actually made that happen. And so I think it just puts more emphasis on us and our ability to give them that kind of leadership opportunities outside the classroom, public service, engaged scholarship, those kinds of things that actually make them more well-rounded individuals will serve the economy and the state of California better, actually.
Let me hitchhike on that. And I know it's always dangerous when you compare to other institutions, but one of my former institutions actually tried to wrap their, the collective minds around, well, why do students come to this particular university? And actually hired an outside firm. They did, focus groups and all this. And in that particular case, what they concluded as a residential campus, about 20% of the reason they came to that institution were academics. 80% they came for the experience. Now, undoubtedly, that would be different here. But that stayed with me because, this question that Kathy's raised about, oh my God, MOOCs and online education is going to be the death of the residential campus. Well, it'll have an impact. There's no question about that, and we'll be adjusting with that. But, it's important to recognize, well, if you think about your own experience, I mean, there's lots of reasons why you go to a particular college or why you physically go to a particular college. I think it's important to remember that.
Yeah.
I'm going to just jump in one thing to add to what Larry said. It was an interesting conversation yesterday with the Dean of Engineering around the Jacobs Hall and the new Design Institute. And one of the things that they're seeing from their students who have come in, spending a great deal of their time in front of computers, playing video games, working online. They are desperate for a hands-on maker experience. They have not tinkered, they haven't built, they haven't actually encountered the physicality of the world. And if we're going to have them be effective engineers and scientists and actually go out and do things, they have to understand that physical material world. And it's a very interesting shift. And I think in that sense, it says to me why actually residential experiences, being on a place where you're actually engaged and doing things, whether it's engaged scholarship or it's actually creating something in the Design Institute, there is going to be a place for that physical, that presence, that interaction, in spite of what may happen with distance learning technology online.
Yeah, I think the way I think about it is that I think it's wrong to set up the question as a online versus residential. I think it's implicit in what everyone has said on the stage is that the meaning of the first of all, Berkeley is residential, and that means a lot. And I think Harry put his finger on it. We produce students and researchers that are qualitatively different from other places. And we know from survey data from the employers that they value what Berkeley produces. So I think that's one thing that we can't lose, because there's something unique about what Berkeley produces, whether it's public commitment or whatever it is, global citizens, it's important. And you can't do that online. But secondly, I think the question's the wrong one, is that those two things are not binary choices, they're going to interact. And the meaning of the non-academic part of the student experience is going to change. My guess is it's going to be a lot more fluid. You're going to have a lot more people coming and going for different periods of time, doing different things, continuing education. Some people are going to do part of the course online, maybe they're going to do it overseas. But my guess is that what defines the residential bit of Berkeley is going to go through a big change. And I think our job is to create an environment whereby we can adapt to that change. I don't think we know what it'll be, but it'll be different. And so, I mean, a lot of the work that you're doing in student affairs, when you're thinking about what is it that you do for students and thinking about your strategy, one of the key parts of that has got to be, you've got to be adaptable. Because the pace of change is going to pick up, and what students want is going to be changing. And we're not best placed to know what they need. I mean, I don't think we know, they don't know what's coming in 5 years' time. But so I think a key part of it will be responsive and don't set up things as binary choices between it's either this or it's that.
Super, thank you. So let me just pivot a little bit to talk about sort of infrastructure, foundational tools and resources. So as a part of our strategic planning work, after we spoke with a lot of students and staff, what we heard very clearly from them was that what they really want, again, students and staff, are modern, technologically relevant infrastructure as well as physical spaces to be able to learn, socialize, live, and for the staff to be able to do our jobs more effectively, efficiently, creatively, and collaboratively. Is there a strategic vision and or discussion for getting the campus to a more state-of-the-art position around these issues?
Larry, I think that's your responsibility.
I'll be happy to start. So, yes, I mean, the straight answer is yes. There's a lot of aspects to this. I mean, technology is not just one thing. And of course, one of the things that's interesting to me in my particular business and field is to see how IT in particular has, just sort of pervasively gotten into everything. But, it starts with, as I think about it as a campus CIO, I think about, it starts with just the infrastructure. I mean, just basic stuff, right? Just, what are we providing from a connectivity and access standpoint? We got to make sure that the wireless network and the wired network are pervasively there. They're up all the time. People never have to think about whether there's any problems or access. So that's, you have to start with that base architecture. As I mentioned earlier, we are working on modernization of student-facing applications, and I think that's a very important piece of the infrastructure with the new student systems that I mentioned that we've begun working on, and of course, Cal Central and the Consolidated Financial View. The move the ETS is making, the change in the underlying learning management system headed to Canvas. I think that's an important piece of the campus infrastructure, making sure that we've got something that faculty can build on and students have a better experience with, making sure that the classrooms are appropriately equipped with the right kind and right level of technology, and including class response systems where that makes sense. This whole move to online that Kathy has mentioned, that's an exciting opportunity. But I think, at least as I think about it, one of the greatest potential that exists with that is allowing faculty the freedom to do something different with class time. We're not going to move all the content to online for all the students for all the courses. But what it does allow you to do is to rethink, what do you do? As a faculty member, what do you do with that class time? And when you don't have to sit up there and just regurgitate content. So I think that's really an exciting opportunity for our students from a standpoint. And let's not forget the physicality side of it. I mean, one of the things that we need to stay focused on, and I've had these initial conversations with ETS and also the library, this idea of creating learning spaces. How do you take a congregating point for students, whether it be in a residence hall or a library or a student lab or whatever? How do you set that up in a way that really supports students' learning and, in particular, their collaborative activity? And if you think about that, maybe it's less technology and it's more, I don't know, stuffed stuffed chairs or whiteboards or other things that support that type of teamwork activity.
I might add that technology is a tool, and I think one of the hazards that we have is that, okay, let's get the technology fixed and the world will be nirvana. But it also requires us as individuals to actually change our practices as well. And there's nothing worse than automating what you had on paper. And so I think as we look at the student systems replacement project, we're going to be asking everyone to step back a little bit. Let's not just automate what we have on paper. Let's look at what the system provides to us, and can we adapt to what's already there rather than having to do major modifications or add-ons to an existing platform that may or may not be necessary. And so I'm going to be calling upon everybody in student affairs as we move down this path to be thinking not about the way you currently do work, but is the systems that we're about to put in place, can we adapt to what's already there, which will save us money in the long term, and also makes it easier for us to make changes down the road as companies continue to do that stuff. And so, from a strategic visioning point, we need to get there. We didn't invest a lot of money over time. Telebear is put together by a gerbil and some rubber bands, and we're hopeful that the gerbil has enough food that it keeps treadmilling on. But that's the thing that keeps me up at night probably the most. I mean, Larry and I we had this conversation. It's like, look, if you can't get registered, we don't get any money. I mean, that's where tuition comes from, is being registered. So if you all want to be paid, we got to get Telebears and the registration system set up so that it actually works. And so I think that, people kind of look at technology as being the answer to all their problems, but there's still that human factor that we have to take into account, and we actually have to be able to and willing to modify ourselves. I'm still fighting with my wife over Facebook. She refuses to touch it. She thinks I'm way too communicative on Facebook, and I said, but that's how I talk to our 33 and our 29-year-old, because that's really their reality. And honey, you won't know anything about their lives because you're not on Facebook, and I'm not telling you. So,
Sometimes that's a good thing, actually, Harry.
Kind of pick up the social media a little bit.
Okay. So in the interest of time, I have two more questions, and this one's going to be a pointed question for John Wilton, the money man. But I would invite other people to also chime in, because this is also talking about employee, staff, morale, and commitment. So lots of staff members are clearly interested, and naturally so, with regard to the fact that they want compensation to be at market. They want a robust compensation package. I think people recognize that the benefits here are actually quite robust compared to other for and nonprofit institutions across the Bay and in the country, but salary continues to be a concern. Have there been any discussions related to compensation, and what are your thoughts around competitive salaries to retain our best talent and sustain high organizational performance, commitment, and morale?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Before I get there, though, I emphasized in the answer to the first question we have to solve the problem of how do we pay for things. But let me make one general point, is that in the work you're doing is so key to this. Strategy and the decisions of priorities has to drive the budget, and not the money drive the strategy or the priorities, right? You have to get it right way round. And if you don't have a system of coming up with strategy, and you don't have good information systems on the budget, you can end up de facto having the budget drive what you do. And you should never be in a circumstance where the budget drives what we do. It should be, these are what we want to do, how do we do it, and how do we pay for it? On this specific one, I think there's a mix of issues. It's true that most of the staff here are underpaid relative to market, somewhere between 8 to 12% is what the data suggests. And we'd like to correct that. Now, as many of you know, because it was illustrated clearly in the last UC mandated across the board increase, where all the campuses got 3% and we got 1%, because they had decided that the 2% that we gave earlier should be subtracted from the 3%. We're part of a system, and some policies are not determined at the campus level. They're determined at the UC Office of the President or the Regents, and sometimes, with the direct influence of the governor. So there are some policies that we can't change, or we can change at huge political costs, and you have to weigh up the benefits and the costs of doing that and taking on that challenge. Having said that, we have Janine Raymond now working diligently on trying to come up with a way whereby we can move people towards market salaries across the board in a way that's sort of consistent with policy and in a way that we can afford to implement. And if it was easy, we would have done it. So it's not easy to solve, but there's a commitment to do it. At the end of the day, all of the policies that govern HR need to be changed. It makes no sense, the nexus of policies we have, particularly the point you made, when you roll in benefits. We have a very odd benefit structure that is given to us by the system, which determines both pension and healthcare. And you saw recently the announcement that the choices on healthcare provider will be changed. Again, that's not a decision that we make. So, in a normal world, you'd have a lot more flexibility in the package that you have. So you might trade off some benefit flexibility for some more salary, or you might have less salary and benefits, and the benefits would be more designed for the individual. But we have a very monolithic structure, particularly around the pension, that doesn't make a lot of sense for a lot of the people that come to Berkeley. So, we make the arguments on that. I think we have a window of opportunity. We have a new president coming in. We have a new head of the Regents. We have our wonderful new Chancellor, who's obviously has a certain ability to step back from the past and take a fresh view of things and engage in a debate about these issues. But we're keenly aware of it. We'd like to correct it. And I think we need to move to a more individually driven benefit and salary package, which is more linked to markets.
Super, thank you. So the last question before we call up our new chancellor to the stage. Over the past, I would say, 12 months plus, we have been, as a division, engaging in a pretty intense dream big strategic planning process. And our point of reference really was to be able to dream without constraints, to think about the possibilities versus what can't we do. And so what I want to pose to our panelists in 3 words or less. Some of the ideas that came up actually from the students were like, graduate with no debt, and from the staff, can we have a staff concierge and a massage room, just to be fun? What?
That was my idea.
Okay, Carrie, yes. That was Harry's idea, sorry.
So that's my 3. That's my 3, I'm done.
So in 3 words or less, if you had to dream big, to dream audaciously for UC Berkeley, for Cal, what would your dream big idea be?
Well, I guess what I would say is I would like to make our impact visible, and I'd like to actually say 4 words, more visible, to really be able to say have people really know what Berkeley is about.
Yeah, I think there's a big part of Berkeley that the general public doesn't understand or grasp, and it's sort of what Kathy was saying is, if you look at it just from an analytical point of view, we produce as good a product in terms of our students and research as any of the best privates, and we do it at about 1/3 of the cost. So Berkeley is actually one of the few examples of a public institution that is much more efficient than the private sector, and we do that coupled with our social objectives that we do. So I think there's a big story to tell about the success of Berkeley. And then if I thought about it going forward, is we have to build on that success and continue to lay the foundation for Berkeley being as successful as it's been. Go for it would be my 3 words.
Go for it, okay. Larry, any thoughts?
So, yeah, my piece on that, I guess I'll go back to something I mentioned earlier about this opportunity. I think that putting content online provides faculty to rethink how they can use face-to-face classroom time in a hybrid experience. But that takes work, it takes support. And so my perhaps narrower view on this is, wouldn't it be great if we could provide a pervasive set of support staff who were available to help faculty with the redesign activity and really support their relatively rapid move to that new way of thinking.
Super. We just want to thank you on behalf of the division for taking time out of your busy schedules at the beginning of the school year to be great partners in creating an amazing student experience. So if we could all thank our panelists today.
Thank my colleagues again. It takes a village to raise a campus, and so they're part of the village people. YMC. No, anyway, I won't sing. Last time I did that, I cleared the auditorium. So it's my great pleasure at this point to introduce Nicholas Dirks, who became the 10th Chancellor of the University of California, Berkeley on June 1st of this year. He is an internationally renowned historian and anthropologist, a leader in higher education, and well known for his commitment to and advocacy for accessible, high-quality undergraduate education in the liberal arts and sciences. During his orientation to student affairs, Chancellor Dirks spent considerable time with us, about 5 or 6 hours, on our admissions process, Cal Student Central, the Laura Sproul Project, the Career Center. He had lunch with our resident faculty members. He learned about our student leadership through our Res Life programs and our student technology. And he also participated in Move-In and addressed 4,000 students at Convocation. He did not have the flag beat him across the head as I did during that ceremony, so I was glad that at least we were properly seated on the podium. And he's already been an incredible supporter of the student affairs, and please join me in welcoming Chancellor Nicholas Dirks.
going to move that flag. I'm sorry I couldn't be here until just now. I was off in San Francisco talking to the editorial board of KPIX and trying to do my best to tell the good news that Kathy is right. Doesn't always get told, certainly doesn't always get told in the right way. And of course, you know, the usual questions come across, you know, things about Memorial Stadium. I said I knew nothing. Except that it's a great venue if you want to be a rock and roll star. So, and you know, that's how the press operates. But what I've been working very hard to do in some of the interviews and some of the media outlets is to tell the real story. It's not about telling a, you know, media story. It's about actually telling about what we do here. And I have been so impressed over the course of my first 3 months in office at the extraordinary work that people like you do to make this campus such an amazing place for students in particular, for faculty, for staff across the board. And you know, this is work that many of you do that simply doesn't get seen, except when something goes wrong, right? I mean, that's the nature of our lives. So whether I'm Chancellor responding to, you know, the kind of latest crisis of the day, or whether you're dealing with the fact that there's a student out there and you think there may not be a bed, and it's the last week of August, and all the calculations about probabilities are falling apart, you're the ones who fix it. And then it goes away. But you know, it was as Harry said. I felt really privileged to have the opportunities I did in the first weeks of term to go visit the move-in day at 4 of the residence halls, to attend convocation, to have 3 different groups of entering students come to University House, to the lawn, to that beautiful lawn, for receptions of different kinds. To participate in one of the orientation days and get taken around everything from, as Harry said, the Lower Sprawl project, and see some of the plans there, to the financial aid offices and other offices, and get a sense of the extraordinary work that's being done here to support the student experience. Now, in my different speeches and interviews and writings of late, I've been featuring the undergraduate the question of undergraduate education. And I am convinced that justice is not done when we, for example, see what we saw yesterday, which is the new ranking of universities and colleges by U.S. News and World Report. And while we say, and it's proclaimed from our website, and it's a great accomplishment, that we are the #1 public university in that ranking, as we are indeed in many other rankings, we are still number 20. And this is not against a ranking of liberal arts colleges. This is a ranking of colleges within research universities. And, you know, Princeton is number 1. I didn't want to go to Princeton. I mean, there's only one way to take New Jersey Transit for those of you who have come for the East Coast, and that's to New York. But you know, the point is that we aren't getting our story out there, and we haven't yet found the way to sufficiently convey the truth of the student experience here, which is unparalleled. That being said, there is more we can do. There's more we can do through academic programs, and there's more we can do in terms of supporting the residential life that our students lead on campus. And so that's what we're going to be working on over the next few years. But we also need to provide a little bit of a bridge between the reality of what we can do here and what we are doing here, and the perception, you know, that this is just a big public university that doesn't care about students. That is just so not true. So I'm here basically to just very, very quickly tell you how much I appreciate the extraordinary work you're doing, how much I recognize that everything that happens in student affairs is fundamental to our aspirations to provide the very best academic experiences for our students. You cannot segment the academic from the experiential. That's impossible. We lead one life, and everything contributes to everything else that's part of that. And when you're a student in a very competitive environment, you've worked your entire life to get the grades and get the scores that allow you to get admission to Berkeley, you come here, and everything then reflects on the university, and everything contributes or takes away from the education that we offer. And so the critical nature of this division, and indeed of what all of you do, is so apparent to me that I am really delighted to have this very brief opportunity in between my editorial board and getting ready for the memorial service at noon today to tell you you're doing a great job, that you are dreaming big, and I'm dreaming with you all the way. So thank you very much, and all the best. I hope this is a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chancellor, for making the time to be here with us. So we're talking a lot about dreaming big, a lot about strategic planning. And I know many of you had participated in the focus groups and the various roadshows and providing your feedback and your input as to what would your dreams be, how do we want to chart out a strategic and intentional future for how we support our students and each other. I just want to show you some video clips with regard to the executives. So the executive team also participated in focus groups, and here are a couple of our substantive conversations.
Well, my name is Ann DeLuca, and I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor for Admissions and Enrollment. I hope you enjoyed that. We had some fun. The execs had some fun putting that together for you just to kick off our Dream Big portion of the morning. If you were here at last year's State of the Division, you might have remembered we had a little musical number, so we thought we'd try something a little different. The idea was just to let you know that we're serious about this, but we also understand it's important to have fun and enjoy ourselves while we're talking. So now, with a little bit more serious note, we want to give you some information about the Dream Big initiative. So.
Dream Big initiative really started about 18 months ago. We had an opportunity to be exposed to a concept where we're not always reacting to the work, but really trying to be proactive in our planning and really paying attention to how we want to create an organization that is at its absolute best. We identified two stakeholder groups as our primary, the students and the staff, and asked a diverse swath of people, if you had to imagine 30 years out what UC Berkeley would be like, what student affairs could be like as a student or a staff member, what would be the best imaginable for you?
Maybe if there's like some sort of forum where all sorts of majors can come in and work on a collective project together, like see what their strengths are, and work towards that, maybe in a club setting or through the school itself.
If there's one thing I could change about Berkeley, it'd be to have a center full of therapy dogs. A center you could go to anytime you wanted to pet dogs because it's really therapeutic.
I would improve the funding situation. I wish there was a better source of assured funding.
We pulled in people across the organization throughout the layers and had a mini retreat. We started to get other partners involved. And then there was an intense time of data collection. We looked externally for data. What were the futurist trends that are happening across multiple disciplines? We looked at books, we looked at articles, we read briefings, and also did site visits. We went to Facebook because they are often touted as a great organization to work for. And we also did a site visit for a nonprofit organization, the Rockwood Leadership Institute, which is based in the Bay Area. to really try to get an understanding of what's outside of UC Berkeley, what's outside of student affairs, that's informing what we think is happening or could be happening in the future.
Our office does a lot of advocating for students. It would be so much easier to advocate for them if I knew everything about them when they're sitting in front of me, as opposed to, well, can you give me a couple of days to call this office, call that office, when I could just have it all in one place.
I think it would be great if we had a creative environment for people to work in. The tech industry has shown us that if you have like ping pong and pool and video games, for people to take a break, they can flesh out some of that old ideas and bring in some new perspectives.
How this is going to benefit both students and staff. For staff, it's going to give us a clearer roadmap on how we can all be successful about why we're all here. We're all here to serve students.
And our students are tremendously altruistic and understand that their big dreams and their thinking right now, they may not see the exact fruits of all of those thoughts right now, but that they are contributing to something of the future of Berkeley.
This initiative is really just the start of an ongoing process. I mean, when you talk about 20 to 30 years from now, most of us won't be around to see what this actually looks like at the end.
While we say it's future forward, it's full of possibility. To me, it's like, what could get in our way except ourselves? So let's get out of our way. Let's do this together. And I think we already have done amazing things just in this pre-work. So there's nothing better to me than saying, as a community, as a division of 1,500 staff members, are we in this? And so far the answer has been a resounding yes.
So I've really enjoyed my opportunity to serve as one of the 2 executive sponsors for the Dream Big Initiative in Student Affairs this past year, and I worked very closely with a team that focused on our staff goal, and you'll be hearing from our other executive sponsor, Dean Poulard, who worked on our student goal. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about is just giving you a little bit of a refresher and then helping you to see what's coming next and how we can all play a role in making that happen. So it's important to remember that we had 2 goals to start out with. These were our frames for conversation. These aren't the final vision. This is about when we're thinking about what's best imaginable. Why are students choosing Cal? Why are staff working at Cal? And the idea is, as we've talked about this morning, how can we have an incomparable out-of-classroom experience? How can we have an out-of-classroom experience that is of the same quality and provide students with the right tools as they receive in the classroom? And we all play a role in making that experience happen. And for staff, it's important to me that staff are on this slide too. We all work to serve students. That's our mission. That's why we're here and do this work. But we know that staff are the heart of that culture of care that Harry talked about this morning. It doesn't happen without an engaged staff and a staff that has the right training and the right tools and feels appreciated and is rewarded for good work. And so it really is meaningful to me that we in our conversations, it really endorsed the idea that it's important to have 2 goals and 2 paths working forward. One that makes the student experience the best imaginable, but one that makes the staff experience the best imaginable as well. You're the face of service on campus. You're the glue that holds the student experience together. You create the culture of care, and we want to be sure that as staff we're front and center in the Dream Big work that we're doing. Let me talk to you a little bit about how we collected the data this year. And I know a number of you in the room were part of the teams that went out and spoke with students and staff. Thank you so much for all of your efforts. We conducted in-depth focus groups with over 300 students and then had 138 one-on-one in-depth conversations with students to really truly dig deep and understand the detail of what they were telling us. We looked at all of the internal information that's collected around students, including coding over almost 2,000 individual UQs responses to better understand what students were asking for and telling us about what it means to be a Cal Bear. We also talked with high school counselors to get a feel for the future and the students who are coming to us. And we talked with prospective and current parents about their students' experience from their perspective and what can be better. We also looked at externally to see what's the future of student affairs look like. When we talk about, cutting edge student service, what does that mean? And so we reviewed in a sort of mini graduate school boot camp a number of articles around that. For the staff, we interviewed over 280 staff within the division to ask them about their experience and how can it be better. There were some institutional reports related to the staff experience that we looked at, and then again, we looked externally, not only in education, but broader, in the world of business, in human resources, in finance, in the arts, in technology, to say, for those staff who are saying they're having a really positive and powerful experience as an employee, what defines that? What are the factors for success? And see if we can take some of those good ideas into the setting of higher education. So, what did we learn? So, first off, here are the staff themes. Again, the team that worked on staff in my area. We want to have a high-performing culture. We want to have a culture that gives students the best imaginable experience. And to do that, you've heard a little bit about it already, but just to be sure we're all on the same page, a 21st century work environment, the right tools, the right technology, the right business processes to get our work done easily and well. We want to raise our bar and raise our reputation. I think we've heard a lot this morning about the idea that amazing things happen on our campus, and how can we be sure we're telling the story and making sure that we're providing opportunities for everyone to participate in that experience? And how can we recognize great work when we have people who are giving that level of service that we want Berkeley to be known for? How can we recognize them, and how can we reward all of our staff? Everyone plays a role in the work that we do. We all help make students' dreams come true, and we want to be sure we're rewarding staff in a way that lets them know that we appreciate that service. For students, students want to be sure that we're recognizing their world is changing, and it may not be, your grandmother's Berkeley experience, and they want things that are going to push us and push our boundaries, but they're things that I think will create great value for them, and that they'll leave here saying, I made the right choice to come to Berkeley. It was an incomparable experience, and I'm always going to be committed to this institution and support it for the future. They want a personalized experience. Not surprisingly, we know that students are in a space where they are much more free in sharing personal information than students from the past, and when they share that personal information with us, they want us to utilize it. Know me as a person, understand my unique circumstances, understand what you can do for me individually, not what's the blanket answer for all students. Give me some directive support. This is different from models that we might be used to from the past. This isn't about a student figuring it out on their own and maybe falling on their face a few times. Directive support is part of that culture of care. We can't let students know we care about them if we're not there to support them. And so we want to give them guidance. Hey, let's help you avoid that ditch that students from the past have fallen into and had to dust themselves off. Let's give you a map rather than have to figure it out yourself. Let's leverage the knowledge we have about what it means for a student to navigate in a university setting and take our own expertise and help students succeed with that expertise. Help students network with other people. This was a common theme for students. There's so many amazing people here at Cal. How can I get better connected with them? Help me find who my networks are, help facilitate the opportunities not only to meet other amazing students, but the faculty who are here who do fantastic things in their classrooms and in their labs. That's part of why students choose Berkeley, and we need to do a better job facilitating those connections so students, again, get the full value out of their experience here. And again, you already heard this idea of a 21st century living learning environment. Students are really looking for all day and all night settings where they're seamlessly moving between studying and socializing and eating and working on projects. And they want spaces where we can make all of that happen for them, and they're not having to kind of go from classroom building to classroom building, pulling on classroom doors to find out if they're locked or open to have a study session, and getting in trouble when they bring food in that classroom. They really want to have something that recognizes the way in which they learn best and the ways in which we ask them to learn with each other, and provide spaces that can facilitate that. And again, technology has been a theme throughout, and we're making great headway and great strides in that space for students. So I just want to talk a little bit about how we're moving through the validation process. So with staff, we got those themes, and I hope you've had many opportunities or heard of opportunities to let us know what you think about those themes. And so far, 500 student affairs staff members have responded back to the themes that you saw on the slide and told us they ring true. That, if you were going to ask me what is the environment that helps me want to stay here, want to give my best, want to help create that culture of care, those are the things we need. And so we're really glad that staff have said, you heard us correctly when you did your analysis work, and we're excited about the potential of what that means if we're ready to endorse that idea and move it forward. With students, because we finished this work in the summer, we have just started our validation work with students. We have about 150 students we've reached out to so far to ask them what they think of the themes and if we've missed anything, and we'll continue that work all throughout this month. And then in October, we'll make sure that there's nothing new we need to add or anything we need to modify based on what we hear back from students. I think that this is the information that was provided. There's no sort of like, wow, that was super complicated and hidden, and I would never have thought of that before. These are basic things like give me some basic tools to be awesome, and then recognize me when I do an awesome job for staff, right? Yes, we should for sure be doing that, and I'm excited about the idea that we are going to strive in a very intentional way for the staff to make Cal a great place to work, for students to make Cal a great place to learn, and for everyone to grow in their potential. It's sort of like we said at the end of the little AT&T commercials, it's not complicated, right? It's not complicated. Now it's just our job to take the next step in the path and work on making it real. So I want to encourage everyone to think about how they can stay involved, or if you haven't been involved, if this is energizing for you to get involved. There'll be plenty of opportunities, and we'll be reaching out to talk with you about what comes next. There'll be some projects we'll start now that'll begin to bear fruit soon, and then there's some things that we'll have to work on that help to get to that bigger 20-year vision. But we have to start on them in order to accomplish it. So I encourage you to think about ways that you can participate. And now it's my pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, AVC and Dean Jonathan Poulard, who I'm going to miss so much. Friday is his last day here. He's going to talk about what comes next, and I encourage you to take this time to get energized and get involved. And you can always come over to my office for some cubicle coffee.
Hi, beautiful people. Hi, beautiful people. This is my last dog and pony show, so give me some love. Give me some love. So, I have the pleasure of talking about what's next, and there are two things that I thought I would talk about as a frame for this work. How many of you are old enough to remember when you had a gas stove, you had to have a match to light it? Who remembers that? Okay, yes. So you know how old you are. Okay, so when I was a kid and I would go to my grandmother's house in the summer, she had a gas stove, you had to have a match, you had to light the stove, the pilot, right? And one day I went to the kitchen and she said to me, Jonathan, put some water on to boil so that we can start cooking. And I said, yeah, but I don't know how to light this gas stove. She goes, just get a match and turn the pilot on and just do it. You know how grandmothers talk, right? So I said, okay. So I got the match, and I had seen her do it many times, right? I was in the kitchen with her while she was cooking. But when I did it, I was terrified that I would blow up the house. I was terrified that I was not going to get this pilot light right. But after the first time I did it, you know, when you light the pilot, and then the rest of the ring lights up, and you're all proud of yourself, or I was. And that fire that goes around the ring is really what we have to continue to let burn. Many of us might be afraid to light that pilot light. But if all of us don't take the responsibility to do that, this never happens. However, you're going to figure out how to do that for yourself, with other people. If you can't do it, then what the execs have done, what the team has done for Dream Big, won't go very far. All of us have a responsibility to light that pilot, to light it. And you know this happens too. It does not go out until you turn the stove off. So you get to decide how long you want that light to burn. Well beyond my last day on Friday, well beyond Harry's time here or anybody else's time here, what will we leave as a legacy for what our students and our staff will have 15, 20, 30 years out? The other thing I want to share with you as I talk about this work is I had a meeting with Ron Coley last week with Akira and David. And Ron is embarking upon looking at how we can have wellness across the campus. And it fits very nicely with what's going on in our own division around staff and students. And when we met with Ron gave a really good point. He said, you know, in every situation that we have all this towers of excellence in our silos. Within the Career Center, we have excellence. Within the Tank Center, we have excellence. Within OSD, we have excellence. Within any of our areas, we have people doing excellent, great work. But when you try to put all that together, it kind of falls apart. We're not looking at how we're blurring lines together to really figure out how we go together, work together, need each other to do this work well. So while we might be great in our silos, how do we move forward much more comprehensively, much more collaboratively? And if that's not a way of how you show up, this might seem very, very challenging, but I don't think it really is. So let me talk about what we're going to do next, if those two examples make sense. Keep the pilot light burning, move outside of our silo. First thing is that we're already moving the needle, right? So we already have, for example, on the student side, we have this SIS process that's going to be moving forward. Again, blurring the lines of how we build better systems for our students. Ann's work, working with Larry, working with Harry, working with Angela, right? We already have, for example, Lower Sproul. And Kelsey, I want to give her a shout out. In the past year and a half, she has held together moving that Lower Sproul process forward. And if you've worked with our students, you know they can sometimes be a little challenging. Right, they push back. They want to be engaged in that way, and she has done a great job of keeping that project not only on time but on budget. And this is the first time in my over 30. Yes, give her a round of applause. Right, on time and on budget. Right. This is the first time I've ever been a part of a capital project where all the bids came in under budget. I've never had that experience before. It's always been like, oh, we need more money for something. So that is going to be a huge move forward for creating the living environments that we want our students to have. But not just in Lower Sproul. We need not just a neighborhood, but neighborhoods for students, right? So Jody, for example, is working with Abram and working with Kelsey and working with Felicia and Harry and others and Kathy, who's still here, right? How do we re-envision the use of Sproul Hall? Isn't that something deep, right? How do we take that building right adjacent to Cesar Chavez and MLK and New Eshelman and make sure that all of it becomes a larger neighborhood for how our students learn, engage, grow, think, right? That we're already doing. That's just the beginning of how we can move this needle forward. That's on the staff side, the student side. On the staff side, we already have a state that we can't even fill, we have no more room. We got to find a bigger space. Right? People want to come to our city and get more training, more development. We also know that on the staff side, people are saying to us, don't just give me a reward, give me a reward that is meaningful to me. So while we're doing a much better job with our spot awards and our achievement awards, that might not be what staff want to feel like they're being rewarded. Maybe they want a spot treatment day. Maybe they want a half day off. Maybe they want something else that to them feels much more rewarding for what they're doing on behalf of us and behalf of our students. So within policy, back to John Wilton's point, within policy, how do we get really creative for how we do that work well, both for our staff and our students? We're already moving in that direction. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So if we cannot stop to take a pause for what we're doing well now, we won't have the energy to do something tomorrow and the next day and the next day after that. Celebrate what we're already doing. We're already making this a reality for ourselves and for our students. But sometimes we forget the successes that we have and we focus on all the drama. And we love drama at Cal, don't we? So we love to talk about things that don't go well versus things that really do go well. So secondly, identifying the priorities moving forward. So in the fall, and I already talked about this whole notion of we have to really go back and make sure that we have the right priorities, because here's the biggest ha-ha. We will not be able to do all of it right away. We have to figure out which things we will tackle first, what are the low-hanging fruit. We have to make sure that our validation is correct with staff and students to then say, okay, of all of the things that we have to get done, and there's a litany of them, which things do we tackle first? And then second, and then third. And already right now, Felicia is working with staff and student affairs cabinet to figure out who's going to be phase 2. Who's going to be the next people who sort of take up the work after phase 1 to move this process forward for our students and for our staff. That's going to take all of the fall semester. And then, after the fall semester we do that, we will think about how we implement the priorities beginning in the spring semester. Right? How do we do that? And then we will align that with our budget for 14, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17. As John talked about, we cannot let the budget drive what we do. Let the priorities drive the budget, which then also means that we're not going to do all the same things. So I'm a Star Trek fan. So thank you very much. So one of the sayings of the Star Trek, am I moving around too much? Oh, you're going to reconnect something? All right. Going to reconnect. Okay, he's reconnected. All right, there we go. So if you're a Star Trek fan, you know that, what does Spock say? The needs of the many do what? Outweigh the what? The needs of the few. That does not mean that we cannot do individual efforts and do things that are meaningful to us, but at the end of the day, are we moving the needle for the majority of our community in ways that make sense and are integrated and are consistent with our values and what we believe in? That's what we need to be doing, right? And so we will do that over the course of the spring semester, come up with our new priorities, align them with our budget priorities, and then we'll continue to move forward. And then lastly, after we get this good stuff done, we will move forward in 14, 15, 15, 16, and on, really rethinking how do we, each year after year, continue to move this needle. And all of us, every last one of us, has a responsibility to do it. I'm not sure about you all, but for me, doing this work over the past year and being the executive sponsor for the Student Goal has been very invigorating because it has moved me outside of my day-to-day drama. And if you're ever in the dean's office, by the way, make sure you love on the new dean. But if you're ever in the dean's office, you know that this is not always for the faint of heart. There are all kinds of things that happen day in and day out that we have to deal with, crisis after crisis after crisis. However, this is the work that allows us to think about what we want better for our students and better for our staff. And so it's been really empowering for me to be a part of this, to be a spokesperson, to go out and talk to people, to not only tell our story, but sell our story for all the good that we do day in and day out. However, execs and the cabinet cannot do it by ourselves. Each of you have to become very powerful narrative storytellers. And it does not mean you can't challenge things that you disagree with. However, once you challenge it, get on board and keep the train moving forward. Yes? 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 Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Everybody hates speaking after Jonathan. You can actually tell why. I'm going to really miss his energy. But he kept saying we and us, and so there's still a chance that, no. Anyway, he didn't say you all. When y'all get ready to do blah, blah, blah. So that means he's like drank the Kool-Aid. So he'll be transmitting like positive vibes from the East Coast as we embark upon this. So what I want to do now, and I'm getting near to wrap this whole thing up, I wanted to acknowledge the people who have been involved in the Phase 1 work by name, because this was not for faint of heart. And we had some people who fell by the wayside over the course of it. I think Felicia said, this was worse than doing a second PhD. I mean, the kind of data collection, the kind of information we have, and now trying to cull all that and make sense out of it was really not for the faint of heart. And I want to applaud a lot of our newer professionals who joined in, who had the energy to kind of participate in that. So I'm going to name people, and if I've left anybody out, I'm really sorry. But these are the names that they gave me, and if you're not on here, you can give yourself a shout out or know that I really do appreciate your work. So first, to Ann and Jonathan as executive sponsors, I think they deserve a round of applause, definitely. And then we had our core team leaders, which were comprised of Felicia, Lee, Lance Page. Lance, raise your hand. Lance. Sabina. Carol Takao. Carol. And then the staff who made all this possible, which were people who went out and actually helped do these interviews at night and elsewhere. Annalyn Cruz. Is Annalyn here? Akira Bradley. Aza Gavorkian, Cristina Hernandez, Cora Gerdes, Greg DeBro, Pam Armstrong. Maybe you want to clap at the end because there's a lot of names here. I want to be done by 12. So Rita Rosenthal, Susan Helbig, Anna Marie Richard, Jeff Erdahl, Norton Mitchell, Christine Lee, Nathan Clark, Ellen Topp, Laura Butler, Maria Halchico, David Atwood, Steve Sutton, Lee Moranto, Glenn de Guzman, Leyland Arajo, Aaron Wixon, and Sam Gordon, and there are probably many others. So great job, and thank you all. So with Jonathan transitioning out as executive sponsor, in phase 2 of the project, I've asked the director of the Career Center, Tom Devlin, who will to serve as a new core team lead and continue to move this project forward. Tom is not here today because he's probably sipping wine somewhere in Italy. And when I asked him to do this, he got on a plane immediately and left the country to a place where people drink lots of wine. So when he gets back, he will be well imbibed and ready to get into the work of this. I'll take that means he's excited because he actually didn't say no, and he'll be working on his new assignment. He'll continue to work closely with Felicia and the core team as well as the cabinet and all of you as this moves forward. And I can't reiterate enough what Jonathan said. This is not Harry LeGrand because Harry LeGrand could hit the lotto tomorrow and be gone. Actually, he probably wouldn't leave. I'd just stay here and piss people off. But you know, it has to transcend an individual. It has to really be about changing the fabric of what we do and the work that it's about. So Tom is known for being a campus innovator, turning visions into reality and thinking outside the box, and I expect all of you will continue to be involved in some way because it does fall on all of our shoulders. Again, not any one of these folks can make this happen on their own. So in response to what you've all shared and was shared by other staff members about big and little dreams, I want to provide some tangible responses to underscore that I actually have been listening and the execs have been listening. So related to the theme of raising our bar and reputation, I'm excited to announce that the division is actively pursuing the possibility of offering a certification and master's degree in student services, student affairs at UC Berkeley. Greg DeBro from our Office of Admissions will be leading this effort. In Greg's former life, he was a faculty member at Florida International University, overseeing their Student Affairs Master's program. We are working closely with University Extension. This, again, it takes a village to make this stuff happen, to develop a certification program and partner with a degree-granting university. Staff can complete the certification through UNEX, but if you want to receive a master's degree, you can finish the requirements at an already established degree granting program. For example, we already have a partnership with USF, the University of San Francisco, and who offers a master's in English as a second language. So students would start their coursework here in Extension and then complete that over at USF. This will reduce the overall tuition cost for students, provides more scheduling flexibility, access to diverse faculty and learning environments. So our big dream big goal, is to be able to offer a UC Berkeley master's program on campus. We'll get there, but this is an exciting first step. We're crossing our fingers that we will be able to initiate this pilot this fall of 2014. So we want to thank Extension for their work there. Hand on that one, that's good. With regard to our theme of meaningful rewards and the findings related to the community connections and perks, I'm very excited to announce that Student Affairs will be hosting a monthly Coffee and Colleagues Hour at Crossroads every first Friday of each month with free coffee, donuts, and for Claudia, bananas or something healthy. And will be available for Student Affairs staff. It will be a time for us to come together informally, get our dose of caffeine, and see colleagues from across the division. And this will begin on October 4th. Just like students, staff like food. I've found that out. So also, each staff member will receive 2 free meal tickets each semester for lunch at any one of the 3 dining facilities, Crossroads, Cafe 3, and Foothill. I encourage you to invite a colleague to go with you that you wanted to connect with, meet some of our students. That's really important to me that if you're going to eat with them, then let's share some time with them in our dining rooms or just to get out of your office. We will have tickets available soon, so stay tuned for more details about that. These 2 programs will be piloted for this academic year. It's not the free cafeteria at Google, but I hope it's close and a responsive step forward. So we'll kind of work that out and see how it plays out. Now, had our technology been in place, we probably could have just put those 2 free meal tickets on your ID card and you could have just swiped it and I wouldn't have to find a paper ticket. But Larry's already gone, so when Larry, that'll be part of when we think about our systems and the kind of flexibility we have. And frankly, I want to share some thoughts on why we do the things we do in the division and frankly for the campus in the last few years. Whether it's been SMART or SAIT, Cal Student Central, Communications, Learning and Development, these are all things which I realize take a risk. It was a risk-taking on the part of me and a part of the executives and a part of many of you. It asks for sacrifices, it asks for patience. Anytime you make any significant changes where you start integrating other offices into one office, it's a challenge, as Campus Shared Services is even finding out as we speak. And we're attempting to dream big. So one of my heroes or sheroes is Maya Angelou, and she said, "Each of us has the right and the responsibility to assess the roads which lie ahead and those over which we have traveled. And if the future road looms ominous and unpromising and the road back uninviting, then we need to gather our resolve and step off that road into another direction. And all great achievements require time." So I'm going to say this, I have not all the answers. It's not maybe a perfect process at this point. At the end, though, we hope that the Dreaming Big will be something that is beneficial to the campus, that we will leave this place better than we actually found it. That's part of being a good stewardship. We can choose to walk down the same path and get the same. I think there's a phrase, if you do what you've always done, you get what you always got. And I don't think that's really where we want to be. We want to really move this forward. So I want us to keep dreaming big and remember that we all play a part in this effort. It's not just me, it's not just the execs, it's not just the SA cabinet, but each and every one of you have a stake in the success for this. So this is me passing the torch back to you and for your engagement as we move to phase 2 of this Dream Big initiative. So thank you for that. Okay, so let me shift a little bit now from the program from a divisional perspective to an individual people. As you know, AVC Dean Jonathan Poulard will be leaving us to chart a new life on the East Coast. I'm happy for him and I'm sad for us. He's been a charismatic force of energy, a change agent, and an educator that has truly left this organization a better place than when he arrived 7 years ago. Couldn't do that. He's been a truth teller to me, a trusted executive, a fearless advocate and ambassador for our division, and most importantly, our students. He's embodied the value of keeping students at the center of the work that we do. Despite the turbulence that sometimes comes with that position, he has always been committed, and for that I thank him. Jonathan, for all the roles you've played, I always call him my Secretary of State. He was Hillary Clinton and now he's John Kerry. A mediator, a trainer, an advocate, a colleague, and a friend, and I want to thank you for that. You will be missed, and I'd like to ask Jonathan to come to the stage now and receive a small token of our appreciation. I should have had an assistant. Okay, wait, I dropped something. Hold on.
I love flowers.
Okay, there's another gift that I've dropped back here in the dark. I can't find it, so Anyway. We have a commemorative plaque for Jonathan that says, Jonathan Poulard, thank you for your outstanding contributions to UC Berkeley, the Division of Student Affairs, 2006 through 2013. And since I know you like to shop, here's a little shopping money.
Thank you all very much. It's been a really wonderful, wonderful experience for me. I don't think I've ever worked like this before in my life, and it's been a huge learning experience for me in more ways than one, not even just intellectually, but for the most part very emotionally. And but I'm very happy that I get to go to New York and be with my beautiful, beautiful partner and chart a new life for myself that will not only be rewarding for me, but rewarding for us. And I do hope that you all will continue as a division to always put our students first. And if we put them first, we will never make a bad decision. Thank you.
So while each year we lose some staff members, we also gain some new ones. I'd like to welcome the new folks. So I'd like to ask the new staff who have joined the division within the last 6 months to stand and be acknowledged. If you've joined in the last 6 months, please stand. So behind me are photos of our new staff, and of course we have people that continue to do amazing work, and I want to acknowledge those folks as well. Take a look at the slides behind me to see how each of you in your small and large ways make me so proud to serve as your Vice Chancellor and lead this division. Thanks to our esteemed guests, Kathy, I think is the only one that's left, but thank you. That's the partnership we have. We hang there. We started completing each other's sentences, so we really I think our spouses got nervous after a certain point. To our esteemed guests and the presenters and to each of you, here's to another amazing year. Good luck and dream big. I especially want to thank Sam Gordon, our videographer, on that It's Not That Complicated. They make me do these things. Last year it was Call Me Maybe, and now it's Not That Complicated. I had to look at the commercial like 2 or 3 times to figure out, oh, that's what they were talking about. Sabina Garcia from my office, who's been helpful, and Liz. And Liz Rodriguez from the Dean of Students Office, who's also been behind the scenes. And the event services staff, which helped put all this together, so thank you very much. And I hope that everyone will be able to stay around for a few minutes as we do a reception in the garden room next to the Great Hall. Thank you and have a great fall.